while since we've had these. Lots been going on around the base. But today, the top three wanted to get together with the Professional Development Committee and our two execs. And we wanted to talk to you guys about telework, pitfalls, and pro tips. So, next slide, please. Today, you got myself, Senior Master Sergeant Hawkins, your Career Assistance Advisor. Master Sergeant Blanchard is here from the 548th. Master Sergeant Marszalek is also here from the 548th. She's the Talent Management Advisor. You got Master Sergeant Curtis, who is our top 3 President, and Senior Master Sergeant Wade, who is our top 3 Vice President. We're going to be covering lessons that we've learned over telework these past couple months. We're going to talk to you guys about resources, and we're also going to be sharing stories, right? Because there are a lot of things that have happened on different ends and different perspectives from our different lanes and different roles that we all fulfill from around the base. So with that, please sit back, enjoy, listen to this conversation. Please join us if you guys have any inputs, and we will get into it. So next slide, and I'm going to turn it over to Master Sergeant Blanchard.
Good morning, everyone. So yes, like Senior said, if at any point you have additions to anything that we talk about, maybe you have some lessons learned that you want to share with us, this is meant to be conversational so that we can all take things away from this, especially that we're going to be extending our telework. We want to make sure that we take something out of this lessons learned slide. So with that, we're going to start off with schedules. Big thing that we want to hit on with schedules is how important we saw it was to make sure that we set defined schedules. So utilizing different resources, looking for different options to keep your team and yourself on a schedule. And then the big thing is communicating that schedule with everyone. So using features such as the Outlook notification, the link system, you can put a message on there. A lot of people I saw started putting that they were teleworking and how to contact them. So just keeping everyone on a schedule that is familiar to the entire work center. The other thing that we saw with scheduling that became really difficult was incorporating COVID-safe planning. So specifically, we had a ton of airmen, Big A airmen that, they have families. They, some of them are mill to mill, some of them are single parents. So scheduling got a little dicey, trying to make sure that we were being fair and then also keeping our mission going. So that was super important. And then Sergeant Curtis, jump in at any point if you have anything to expand on for these. Along with that scheduling, we had to get a little creative to make sure that we were keeping our spacing for the 6 feet of separation. So having a proper workspace both at work and then when you're teleworking became essential. So making sure that, when we were setting up, so the 548, we still, being Intel, we still go to work and our main mission still has to go on. We're considered essential, but we couldn't just disregard airman safety, right? So we had to take our floor plans and then basically make sure that everyone was seated appropriately. And then in that, we also had to consider things like collaboration, right? So if the airmen were at work, but they couldn't talk to each other because of our seating arrangements, then we're not really being effective in collaboration. So that was a big thing for us. And then on the telework side, making sure that you're equipped with an area that you can actually be productive. So it sounds super simple, but for different people, productivity looks different. So for me, I like complete quiet. I like to be by myself. I get real distracted. I have a real cute dog, Chaz. But, he runs around. And if I don't have a space where I'm completely dedicated to what I'm doing, I'll get real distracted. So that became real evident at the beginning of the telework.
Definitely. And one of the other things about schedules, especially if you have different shifts, being mindful that, you may be calling someone who is on their mid shift, so they may be sleeping, or you may be talking to someone who's on swings. So sometimes if something is needed when it comes to scheduling, making sure that we're aware of, our airmen, what schedules they're on, and setting up, utilizing the resources available, setting up a bridge of communication to make sure that we're engaging with them. Because if someone's working to stay on their mid-shift schedule, you call them 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning for something, that's going to disrupt, their sleep. So, using a number of resources that came out, and we'll get into that on the next slide. But one great thing that came from this new normal was the pivot to so many virtual options and applications. And we'll talk about that a little later. But moving to proper workspace, one of the things with proper workspace is, setting up an area that puts you in the work mindset. There's been a number of parents that now have said they would rather be at work because doing virtual homeschooling has become difficult. And, when you have, young kids and things, sometimes being on the couch is not the best place. So as you move to set up a workspace, putting that place that you're feeling like, okay, this is where I'm going to work, and then I'm going to step away, and this is going to be back to my family time. And I'm going to say this, and then Sergeant Blanchard, I'll turn it over to you. For people with kids, we understand it. And listen, if your child runs in and says, Mommy, Daddy, what are you doing? Are you working? Embrace it, because most people realize, hey, you're at home. And to ask a 5-year-old to stay in a room by themselves and not come and check that now Mommy and Daddy are home, that's unreasonable. So if your kid walks in, hey, most of us are going to be like, hey, how you doing? Yeah, Mom and Dad is working, and we understand it. And that's totally okay. Sergeant Blanchard, over to you.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. And especially that kind of leads into the next topic of keeping balance. So absolutely, it kind of leads into both, really. Like, we're human beings, right? But we all wear Air Force uniforms. Sorry, I don't know. We all wear Air Force uniform, but we're human beings, right? And that uniform comes off, and we have to remember all the things that come with that, right? Emotional intelligence, knowing your people. But the biggest thing is we have to, as senior NCOs, set boundaries and allow our airmen to set boundaries to keep a healthy work-life balance, especially going into telework. So a lot of times that's kind of tough, right? We have to set the standard and make sure that everyone understands what telework is. Like, I know at the beginning of this, we had to be very clear and direct with, just because you're working from home doesn't mean you should be drinking mimosas as you're typing up, your reports that you're doing. And I kid you not, we had to give very specific orders like that, because there were people that were like, oh, they don't understand what teleworking is. There's a number of articles that's actually written, if anyone wants to look into them, but it's called Boundaryless Working. And a number of people across the globe, and in Japan is really where a lot of the research surrounding it started. But one of the things that came out of that research was setting boundaries for yourself, and then setting boundaries for your team. So like you said, Sergeant Curtis, absolutely, if your kid comes in, no one should be chastising you over a situation like that. But at the same time, we should not be contacting our people, like you said, in family times. We should have very hey, this is when you're going to be in telework status. This is when I contact you. At the beginning of all of this, we saw a lot of people, as they thought of it, they would reach out. So that could be anywhere from 10 o'clock at night, 2 in the morning. I was getting text messages, and like you said, there was a ton of resources. But with that, everyone kind of was like free for all. So it was really important to dial that back, to put that balance back in there, and let everyone know, hey, this is when I'm available. This is when you can contact me, all of those things, which brought us to the face-to-face, or virtual face-to-face, if you will. Another big thing that we saw in our organization is we recognize that it's important so that people don't feel isolated to contact them. So one of the things that we did to sort of give us some sort of control mechanisms is we set up Zooms, WebExes, FaceTimes with supervisors and teams. But one of the things that we saw with that was our airmen were either getting used to it, right? So they would jump on the call. Everyone would check in. They were good to go. But then if we checked in randomly for something else and said, hey, put your camera on, you know, people either weren't where they were supposed to be, or maybe they weren't in the mindset they should have been in. So that was a big thing that we saw in our organization, is making sure that we were checking on people to see how they were handling. And if, you know, if they are, some people, you know, if they're introverted, they took this a lot easier. I know I had a lot of airmen that were like, oh, I love this, right? I can like sit at home and only be at home and talk to, you know, my small group of people. Whereas some of my extroverted airmen were like, this is the worst thing in the world, right? I no longer have that social interaction, that collaborative feeling anymore. And so it was a lot more, I guess, dynamic whenever it came to face-to-face and figuring out who exactly we needed to engage, maybe a little more. And, you know, when a phone call was appropriate versus, you know, FaceTime. With that, too, we also saw networking became extremely important. So for me in Intel, honestly, whenever everything happened, I just kind of was like, how do I do my job if I'm not at work, right? But we had to get creative. We had to get innovative. So reaching out to other organizations and other senior NCOs, and then honestly in other career fields, too, seeing what they were relying on, especially since a lot of other career fields, you know, didn't have the classified thing to consider. So a lot of their lessons learned were actually extremely helpful. I have a friend over at, they were all in Germany, and so they were kind of some of the, at least on the Intel side, they were some of the ones that were starting to try new things early on. So it was super helpful reaching out, you know, and networking to make sure that we weren't duplicating any processes.
Right. And that's again, one of the great things that came out of, you know, this new normal was the necessity breeds invention. And what you see here is one of those, you know, come about great inventions. We had to pivot in our professional development team, you know, knowing that we still wanted to look at what we could do. You know, the telePD was birthed from, you know, networking, and then being able to reach out as a top three, reaching out to other top threes, you know, across bases, and finding out, hey, what are you guys doing? How are you guys staying engaged? How are you staying active? Because this, you know, I'm looking around, unless we're vampires, none of us have lived through a pandemic before. And so compared to staying in our stovepipe and saying this is what's going to happen, being able to reach out to other, I know, you know, Sergeant Hawkins reached out to some other CAAs and were able to really dynamically help and engage the airmen with other bases that probably wouldn't have happened without this opportunity. And now you had multiple CAAs coming together. You had top threes partnering with each other and sharing information, being able to talk to other people across other bases virtually and host together. So really understanding that networking, you don't have to do it all by yourself. There's other people that have great ideas and they're doing great things, and sharing that and collaborating. So, you know, the same thing, if as we go into the rest of our slides, if somebody out there is listening in and has information to share, or, you know, pros, please, you know, drop that in the chat, or, you know, jump on and let us know, because again, we're here. This is going to be around a little bit, and we know that there's always other great applications used that just haven't made it to the surface yet. So the more we can share with each other, the better it is for all of us.
Yeah, sure. And I think with that, we can get into the resources slide if y'all want.
Yeah. So with this, me and Sergeant Mars will let you guys know that there's a number of resources that were put out and released. And these resources have really allowed us to be flexible in this time, to still share information, to still be able to collaborate and communicate, because, you know, with teams and now people at home and now people at work, the ability to communicate and make sure that everyone knows what is the platform that is being used. That's one thing that was noticed. You know, some people are like, hey, we're doing email. Well, we got this chat service and we're doing this. And then what can happen is it could be application overload. So kind of being able to say, hey, we're going to use this for 80% of what we need. And if something else comes out greater, we'll pivot. But this is what everyone is going to use going forward, and then adjust from that. So with that being said, I'll let Sergeant Mars talk about a couple of the things on the slide, and then I'll let you know about the greatness of Desktop Anywhere and Teams.
Okay. So I think with these resources, like if one good thing came out of the pandemic, I think it's the amount of collaboration that we're doing across the Air Force, and just like the time that we've been able to have to focus on ourselves professionally and personally grow, right? So some of the awesome resources that came out of there was Air Force Quarantine University. Most everyone knows what this is. It is a Facebook page meant for collaboration, to share resources, to share expertise, so that SMEs can share what they know across the Air Force. So if you weren't there when the page was first swarming, you might not be familiar with the setup. So Air Force Quarantine University, you start following it and you're getting all of these notifications, like all of these updates on your newsfeed about different things. So it can be kind of chaotic. It can be overwhelming. So if you want to approach it in a more methodical way, or you're trying to search, I definitely recommend using the search tool. But also they've organized a lot of the material into units. So the units cover everything from the social and physical pillars. They have a Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force perspective, a technical unit. So if you want to look at it in a more methodical way and just kind of like browse through topics that you might be interested in, I would recommend going to the units. Also in their files and media tabs, there's a ton of resources, of files that you can use. Okay, so Digital U. So this is research I just learned about. It has not been real thoroughly promoted. It is still in beta testing, but there's a lot of free courses that you can take on Digital U. So Digital U, is a collaboration between the Air Force and Pluralsight and Udemy. So a lot of the courses that someone might take on Udemy or Pluralsight that would normally cost money is now free for airmen. So on Digital U, you can create different learning paths. You can teach if you have something to teach. I'll speak a little on the learning paths. So you can basically create a path about anything and then add courses. So you can add as many courses as you want, 3, a dozen courses. So then you can then share that training path with others. Courses that you would find on Digital U is anything from finance and accounting, marketing, data science, cloud computing, what else? Office productivity, leadership, everything. So that's a really awesome tool. I think it's going to be, since after it's done with beta testing, it'll be more promoted, but you can totally use it right now. For collaboration tools, I think Sergeant Blanchard made like some really good points right about lessons learned, is ensuring that the platform that you use is one that your teleworkers and your folks at work on AFNet can both use. And obviously there were some limitations with that on Zoom. And I know that most people in the DoD are on WebEx or CVR Teams or Desktop Anywheres. But I think it's more about choosing the platform that is right for your team, because there'll probably still be accessibility issues for some of your members, right, when they're at home. But Lieutenant Curtis, do you want to talk about that some more?
Yeah. And so with that being said, that's one of the things that we did discover, is that there's some platforms that, like Sergeant Mars said, you have to be mindful of what can be accessed, inside AFNet, and then what can't. So something like Cisco WebEx, being that a lot of the DoD, is tied to and partnered with Cisco, they open up Cisco WebEx, and it is able to be used, inside AFNet. Sometimes you may have browser issues. It's, Google Chrome or whatever. But then with that, other things that came about was Desktop Anywhere. And Desktop Anywhere gives you a virtual desktop that is just like sitting at your NIPRNet computer at work. You still access it through your CAT card, but the beauty of it is that it's virtually looking like your own NIPRNet computer. If you go through the portal, they have a step-by-step guide that shows you how to execute it. And you know, it's very seamless. When OWA was having the SMIME and connectivity issues, a lot of people using Desktop Anywhere were still able to get on right there. And I'm going to talk about Teams and then throw it over to Sergeant Blanchard, because I think she's a big proponent of Desktop Anywhere and the accessibility of it. But with Teams, you know, that is the new way forward that the Air Force is going. So if you're looking at the why should I, you know, acclimate or why should I lean forward, it's because the Air Force now is going to push Teams as the collaboration and communication tool. There's two different Teams that people have to be mindful of. There's the CVR Teams, which came out first. And that, if you think about it, I like to think of it like a fence. CVR Teams is everything outside of your fence. So the reason you know you're on CVR Teams, because that's username and password. You don't have to use a CAT card to access it. But the problem is how you authenticate. So it used to be that you could log into CVR Teams and stay logged in. They changed that to now an 18-hour login limit. So every 18 hours is going to force you to authenticate. And so if you have it tied to your work email or tied to your work phone and you're teleworking, then somebody has to, you know, if it's to your phone, they have to pick up your phone and just hit pound. You can go in and change it, but you have to get with the help desk. Then there's the inside the fence, which is CHES or AFNet Teams. And that's really what the Air Force is going to go towards. And that's loaded on every government computer. If you go inside, you can find Air Force Teams. You probably saw it on your desktop. And that's really where things are going to be a Google Sheets, a home base of collaboration and accountability that you can set up. And I am a huge proponent of Teams. And if anyone wants, you know, kind of a walkthrough, I'm fully invested in Teams, and I believe it really helps with efficiency and assistance. But yeah, those are the two Teams that you use. Sergeant Blanchard, would you like to talk about Desktop Anywhere?
Yeah, sure. So you guys covered a good chunk of it already. I just really want to sell it. So I, to be quite honest, haven't had much telework this year, just by nature of my schedule. I've just been lucky that I hadn't had to do too much telework. Up until actually this week, yesterday, I had to start teleworking for yesterday and today, and so I was figuring out the Desktop Anywhere, and it is freaking awesome. Like, it blew my mind. I reached out to a couple of security forces people and some people I know and was like, man, do y'all know about this? And they hadn't, you know, the word is not out there for Desktop Anywhere. And yeah, so basically I, you know, even though I'm Intel, I hate computers. Quite frankly, I don't like working on computers. I don't like technology, and I love my comm people because they help me every day. So if I could figure it out, I say that you can figure it out. The guide that you talked about, Sergeant Curtis, was awesome. It's super step-by-step. Download a bunch of stuff, boom, have it up there, and then, yeah, it mirrors your desktop. And the biggest, I think, advantage that I can say for Desktop Anywhere is you have access to the shared drives, which is, I think, the biggest thing for me that was always the frustrating, like trying to get people to send me documents and me working on it and send it back. So it really is effective in collaboration, right? Like working on those shared drives with your network was super helpful. So for me personally, I have the link up where I can message anyone I want, and then having access to that shared drive was just super helpful. It was barely noticeable that I wasn't there. So again, just super, super awesome. Can't say enough about it, how awesome it is. And then I definitely will get with you after this on CVR Teams, because that one's kind of like, I don't really know much about CVR Teams, and honestly, it just seems like super, I guess, nebulous, but now no, you're awesome at it. I'm going to call you after this.
That's cool. I'm definitely here for it. I'm willing to partner with anyone or assist anyone setting up teams. It's such a useful collaboration tool, and again, it's not the end all be all, but it's 80% awesome, and it can really transition. The biggest thing that I've seen when talking about transitioning, that I've used it and seen it used for, say you have someone that's in processing and they're at a different base, and you want to start to integrate them and acclimate them to where they're coming, you can contact them and add them into teams and start passing information, if there's, especially like intel, if there's certain things unclassified, getting their name, getting their information, email address, all that stuff, you can build a center in there that's like a virtual CSS that you can get all that information, all those documents right there to them in real time, and they can update. And so when they get to the base, they're 90% done and ready to go. And now they're familiar to what's going on. And once you leave, you can house those documents there for people to follow up behind you. So it really sets people up for success and transitions us to the way forward. On top of that, if you've noticed with Skype for Business is going away in 2021. And right now the beta test is Teams communication, but that's where everything's going to be housed, so it's not going to be like you said, Sergeant Blanchard, the irritation of, I don't want to use 8 things to talk and communicate. I'm just going to go to just email. They're now going to centralize things. And that's why Skype for Business is going away and Teams is going to become that tool, because people are used to chatting already. So it's going to, it's going to house all that. So yeah, CVR Teams I love, and that's where meetings are going to be hosted and everything, and sharing screen and all that good stuff.
And with that, just want to add to that, Sergeant Curtis, those senior NCOs out there that are going to watch this video or that have joined us now, I just got back from senior NCOA in a virtual TDY, and the primary platform that we use to engage and deliver content and speeches and trade information was through through the Teams app with senior NCOA. So if you haven't become familiar with it and you're projected to go to senior NCOA and it's the virtual class, it would behoove you to start getting familiar with that system ahead of time.
Awesome. See, there we go. We got another happy customer of Teams using it for senior NCOA. Thank you for that. And so with that, we'll go to the bill hookups. And again, if there's anybody out there that wants to chime in or has, especially with these resources, we know it's a lot of things out there, Slack, Mattermost. Some people are using Discord, off work. Please share so, the replay squad can see this and have that information. So with bill hookups, we have High Flyer. I'm not going to work to pronounce that word because I don't want to butcher it when people come back and look, and then CAA and Team. So Sergeant Mars, if you want to talk about the ISRG part.
Not sure if you ever heard of Al Jazeera. So Al Carrera is a play on Al Jazeera, and it is my newsletter that I put out as the talent management advisor for our group. So it's geared towards Intel folk and really focusing in on Intel specific opportunities. Some of it is pretty general though. So it can be shared outside of the organization. I do specifically share it with the Intel guys at the 9RW outside of our group, make sure that they have access to that information.
Okay.
But
and then, go ahead.
It's something that what I learned is that it's really difficult to get information out across the group. So one thing that's been successful is taping things up above the urinals, in the bathroom stalls, and above the microwaves. So I do that, and that's been pretty successful in getting the word out. But then I also have a Facebook page too that I shared out to just ensure wide dissemination. Of course, it goes out on NIPR. That's kind of like the one system that our guys are just not always looking at.
Gotcha.
Well,
And
sorry, for that, I want to say, like, while it is Intel specific, I know, was it this month that you did, November, that you did the piece on the comm dudes and dudettes? Or was that last month? So it's,
and then December just came out just the other day, and that one's on innovation, which is also applicable, outside of the group.
Yeah, so that was a big thing for me, is whenever I saw the product, I loved it because it kind of like ties not just our group, because again, our group we have comm people in the 9RW and we have Intel people in the 9RW. So really I thought it was effective in basically creating an environment to talk about collaboration and be more inclusive, because she also put stuff in there, like there's a book review in there, there's a little bit of sprinkle of professional development without it being too much. So I thought it was super awesome, both in our group, but again, across the base, I think it would be effective for the other, for other senior NCOs to see kind of what everyone's doing.
Yeah, and I love that you put it in the two most important places at work, where people have to go use the bathroom, and then where people go to eat. So the microwave and the bathroom is always great places for information, because you're doing one of those out of those two sometime throughout the day. Of course, so now we have the high flyer. That's been brought back. That was on pause a little bit for the base, but that's been brought back to use. And that's kind of just the hub of information, again, talking about sharing across the base. That's where, we use it's been sent out so everyone can kind of see the important things that are happening across the base in one centralized place. One of the things that can be noticed is that if you fragment information and communication and you have to go 8, 9 different places to find it, people are just going to go to where it's the easiest, which is word of mouth and, hey, what's going on? And can you tell me about this? I heard about this. So High Flyer allows it to be housed in one place, because some of the things that were said is, oh, I never knew this was going on. I didn't hear about this, or when did this happen? So the High Flyer, being brought back gives us the ability to, tell us about all the great things that are going on Beale Air Force Base. And again, going back to engaging with our airmen, a lot of times when you don't know something's going on base, you feel segmented, you feel by yourself. You're like, I didn't know about that. And so you end up staying in your room. At least with this, you kind of have a pick and play. It's like, oh, we have a Christmas carol going on, or a tree, ceremony or anything like that. You can find that in the High Flyer. And so moving on, CAA and team. That's another great resource. If you don't know, Senior Hawkins, he is, a wealth of information, and being that he's CAA, he knows about a lot that is going on base and the great things that's happening. So, Hawk, do you have anything?
Yeah, I try to. I appreciate that. I do the best that I can, trying to be networked in with what's happening around Beale, in and out of the different debts, in and out of the different squadrons. So my team and I, Staff Sergeant Vig, who's our Wing Airman Development NCOIC, and Staff Sergeant Taylor White, who is our FTAC NCOIC, we work closely with everyone around the base to try and make sure that we're delivering whatever professional development opportunities are out there for senior NCOs, NCOs, CGOs, and airmen. So at any time, if we have stuff going on, we push that stuff out to the entire base, to the 940th, the 195th folks, everybody. We want to make sure that we keep people informed about development opportunities, and there's also opportunities for people to come in and help facilitate courses and stuff. So if you guys ever have any questions about professional development, or your folks have retraining questions, you send them our way and we will get them squared away. We're taking virtual appointments during our telework time, and we are about to transition the teaming. So someone will be in our office at all times. So feel free to stop by, maintain that 6 feet when you come in, and then while we are also taking virtual appointments, we'll get that set up on our calendar, no problem.
Cool. Thank you so much for that. And if you still don't know where Sergeant Hawkins is located, look for the big spot where the sun is shining, and that's where you will find him. But no, actually, he is behind the ALS building. So if you get to the DFAC, just turn around and put the DFAC to your back and look all the way behind ALS and behind the dorms, and look for the big blue sign that's painted on the concrete, and that's where the CAA and his team. Again, if you have airmen out there that have questions regarding cross-training, their window, career path, and they just want to know, please refer them over there so they make sure that they're in a window and they can take advantage of that information. Hawk and his team are open. They want to talk. They want to communicate, and they would rather give more information than to keep it to themselves. So, please let your airmen take advantage of the great resource that they are. And with that being said, free college courses. That's another thing that came out of this. A lot of people realized that personal and professional development needed to happen still. And so those opportunities were opened up, especially for military to take advantage of. So, Sergeant Mars, could you tell people a little bit about the opportunity for free college courses?
Right. So if you're not using your tuition assistance, like if you don't want to do a degree plan, or maybe you're just not ready yet, there are courses you can take through Coursera.org and edx.org called Massive Open Online Courses, or MOOCs. So the MOOCs are actual course materials from Ivy League schools and also corporations too, like IBM's on there, for example. So you're taking a college course and that the material's all the same. At the end of it, you can get a certificate as you've taken the course, but it does not count as college credit. So I've taken a few on there, HTML, CSS, and as well as managing talent, which has been actually super, super helpful in my new position. So same with Digital U. It covers a lot of courses, a lot of wide-ranging topics. So definitely highly recommend checking it out. And it's not necessarily, the MOOCs are not necessarily free. You get the first 30 days with Coursera or EDX for free, and then you have to subscribe. So if you can finish a course in 30 days, which usually the courses on there you can, then it's free. And if not, it's $50 a month for a subscription.
Yeah, one of the things I found that was super helpful with both the free college courses and then the Digital U and the Air Force Quarantine University is it allowed a little more flexibility with deliberate development. So when all these things first came about, I was a little apprehensive, to be quite honest, because it was just like so much. But Kara, you brought up a good, I'm glad you said it, like filtering and being methodical in the way that we use these and the way that we introduce them to our airmen, I think is super, super important and like pivotal to making sure that it's actually successful and we don't have airmen that are just taking courses as a free-for-all. Because again, any development is good, but like deliberate development is money, right? So like one of the things I saw and the way that we utilize these is we picked out courses or allowed our NCOs to pick out courses to assign them to their airmen to then incorporate into a project, right? So like it's fantastic, and I really love whenever, our airmen decide to go out and take courses because they're excited about it, but I really, really like whenever they can apply it to, hey, I'm going to go take this, there's a China one, right? I'm going to go take a China course, and then I'm going to apply it to a product that I'm going to build for a customer. And so we were able to start integrating that with some of these resources too, so I thought that was really helpful.
Yeah, I think that, there's so many resources, right, and we're kind of like inundated with them, so I think they're only really as valuable as their quality. So it is important to vet them, and as useful as they are relevant. So if you're just like taking random courses and stuff, it's like, well, you're learning something new, but is it relevant to your personal or professional growth?
Right.
Exactly.
Sometimes.
So, and thank you for everybody. I hope this, as you people review this and replay this, that they see that there's plenty of opportunities to collaborate and communicate and find information and communicate it across the board. It's just that we have to use the tools and execute. But we do understand sometimes it can be an application overload because there's so much stuff coming out. But like was said, just be deliberate with it and figure out really what can be used and how you want to use it, and then implement it. And so with that being said, we're going to go over to stories. And the examples of success and failures with Senior Wade will give us some of the pros and also some of the difficulties of moving into a virtual application.
Thank you guys for this. Let me know if you guys can't hear me well or not. This has been my life for a while now. As you guys know, we went into the pandemic start around March. That is when I started teleworking. That is pretty much due to medical as well as childcare issues. So from March until December, I was home teleworking as well as being a kindergarten teacher for my 5-year-old. So, start from the beginning, it was very new for everybody. We weren't sure what was going to take place. But as I sat here and listened to this professional development, I just realized I literally went through everything that was discussed here. So this is going to be a great lesson learned, because so many things that was mentioned is stuff I wish I would have known about or wish I would have embraced very early on. So to just start off, obviously it was learning to work in this new normal. It was learning to work with the different environments. I was a part of top 3, still I'm a part of top 3, but we just started that in a year. We were trying to do Zoom meetings, and then we moved on to, I'm a GSU base, so our parent wing is for 80th in Virginia, so now they're doing WebEx, and thankfully they gave us that ability to use the WebEx to do our meetings. But then it was now trying to get my life as a flight chief going at home as well as I would at work. That did not work out very well in the beginning. I will say so myself. I started off with all the tips everyone gave you at the beginning. Oh, make it like work and get up and be a PT and get in your uniform and pretend you're going to work, right? That lasted for about 2 weeks. After that, it was pretty much, okay, I'll be short. I got to get a little bit more comfortable. This is getting a little bit much. I was still getting up doing the workout. That stuff didn't change. But as time went on, everything started to become an emotional toll. Like I said, I have a 5-year-old, so she was going to the CDC at the time. So when everything shut down, they legit shut down the CDC for an amount of time, depending on what class they were in. So she was now home. She was transitioning to kindergarten in the fall, but of course right now it's just me and her. So I'm trying to continue on where her teachers are teaching her, trying to prepare her for school, as well as trying to be a flight chief at home. That became pressure. I started to take an emotional toll, because I felt like I was either not being there for her when she was trying to learn, and I didn't want to keep her on a tablet or TV all day. And I felt like I was also not being there for my team. There were a lot of people I had to take my place. So if I can't be in this meeting because I'm doing something with her, I need you guys to step in for me. I need you guys to be able to speak for me. And it became an emotional toll. I started to put that burden on myself to feel like I wasn't performing as I normally would. In all actuality, I was probably overperforming than I normally would. I joke all the time and saying I think I worked way more at home than I ever did at work. Because as was mentioned earlier, now that you're home, you're constantly on email, you're constantly on call. I was getting those calls at 10 o'clock at night. People were receiving emails from me at 1 o'clock in the morning. Why? Because everyone's asleep. My baby's asleep. The house is clean. Dinner's, fed. People are bathed. I'm now up working in the middle of the night. And that didn't change, because guess what? 8 o'clock, whenever she was ready to jump up, we were up in the morning and starting work again. So it was finally getting an understanding of that shouldn't be your lifestyle. I will say it literally took me 6 months to get that understanding. So I was still up in the middle of the night. I was still responding to emails. And finally, just one day, I think I was just like, no, I give up. I can't do this. I can't be on I realized emotionally I was like tearing myself down a little bit. I was talking to people, just trying to get some normalcy back into my life. And of course, my daughter started kindergarten, like I said, when fall started, and she's now homeschooling. I don't know if any parent out there has ever homeschooled a kid, but it's not easy, especially when they're 5 and they're trying to learn, just to spell or learn the color words and everything like that. And you would think it's not as hard, but apparently kindergarten has changed from many, many years since I've been in there. But it was a trying time to now add that into place. I will say, out of all of this, I think if anything, I've become not only stronger but closer to my team at work. And trying to make sure we stayed in communication, I started calling airmen at home, just kind of checking on them, just seeing what was going on, how was their day. I always joke that was probably the weirdest thing for them. They'd always get that, hello? Yeah? I think they thought I was calling them in for urinalysis or something. Like, I promise, say hi, what's going on? And I started to do that more often. I ended up switching positions at work, which made it even harder to get to know the people. But I think that was very successful. It made me do it in a point where I would have felt weird before. It made me now call them and say, what you doing this weekend? Or what you watching on TV? Or what's going on? Again, probably still weird for them. But it was a good connection. To the point to where I came back on the 7th of December, the first time I came back in the office, from permanent telework. And literally everyone knew me. It was just like, oh, hey, and we could keep up a conversation. It wasn't just all of a sudden like, who is this person stepping into the office or who is this person now in here? It literally built a tighter community, a trusted community. It was a more friendly community. And I think it helped us all get through it together. So like I said, definitely this whole PD is awesome. Everything from learning the resources to the lesson learned, the emotional intelligence, which I will say was probably the biggest piece of it, is learning when to back down, when to not feel frustrated, when to say enough is enough, and when to just kind of step back, take a breath, realize you're not alone in this. You're not a burden on people. You're not a burden on your family. Breathe. We're all going through this. Let's get through it together.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Senior Wade, for that. One quick question, Senior Wade, I would like to ask you. Being a mom and realizing work, what was the biggest difference that you had going into teleworking, and then what you realized once you were in telework, being a mom especially?
I thought it was going to be a snap. I'm not going to lie. I was like, I'm going to be home. She can hang out in the room. We can sit here and watch Blue while I'm on the laptop, in my PJs. Really, I thought it was going to be amazing. Like I said, I learned very fast that's not the case because a 5-year-old is a 5-year-old. She wants to eat when she wants to eat. She wants to play when she wants to play. She wants to have fun when she wants to have fun. And it gets hard as a parent when you have to say, not right now, or give me a minute. And it's not that I'm just saying this like once I get home from work and, trying to catch up, but she no longer had that separation of home life and work life. It wasn't mommy's at work and then mommy comes home and we're having fun and talking dinner and bath time and everything. Now it's mommy's always at work. When does mommy have time? When does mommy get that little, time to sit down and talk in bath time? Because if she's in the tub, I'm sitting here over on the laptop. If she's eating, I'm sitting at the table, but I'm still on my laptop. I'm still responding to email. So it was almost, after a while, I started to notice that there was no longer that separation of business and home hours. It was just for her, mommy's always, give me a minute, I can't do this, give me a second, go watch this. And I think she started to feel a little bit ignored. And once I started to realize that, I think that's when I was like, who's going to take the hit? Is it going to be my baby, or is it maybe going to be this email that has to be sent? And it was definitely, I chose that email was going to take that hit because after a while, it was having too much of a burden on her. So no, it wasn't easy as I thought it was going to be. It became a challenge, and it definitely became something I had to actively work through.
Thank you for that. And I think that is powerful for people that listen to this afterwards, that you go into it believing, oh, I'm at home and it's going to be easy. And then come to realize that, this is probably one of the first times that your kids are like, oh, parents at home. So now they're able to be accessed all the time. And that can put a strain, on you wanting to do work, because you're like, hey, I know you see me, but I need to be at work, And I can just imagine what's going to happen when everything goes back to kind of a more normal state. When your kids are used to seeing you there, now you have to leave again. There can be some impact that way as well.
Definitely.
Got you. And so, as a top three, I just want to say, none of us were built for this. We had all these illustrious plans going in, and, it shifted on us, and then especially when PCSs were on hold, and then we went through an actual shift in leadership, in June. We had Senior Flora, who was, the president, and then he leaves in June, and then we pick it up. And then, Senior Barraclaw, left, in the third quarter. So, this was new for us, but I'm very proud that we've been doing these telePDs. We were kind of first out there. We jumped on it, and led the way. And so, it's been a great time. But Hawk, Blanchard, I'll pass it back over to you guys.
All right. We're about at our time. So I would like to thank everybody that joined us for this Bill Top 3 telePD on telework, pitfalls, and pro tips. Hopefully you guys got some stuff out of this conversation and the information from these senior NCOs from around the base. We talked about our lessons learned. We shared some resources with you guys, and we also heard from Senior Master Sergeant Wade, who shared personal stories about her successes and her pitfalls with her telework experience. As your CAA senior NCOs out there, I really got to tell you guys the things that are in here. You really need to take them with you. I get to see all different kinds of airmen from around the base, from the airman tier to the NCO tier to our tier senior NCOs. And I have to tell you and stress it that even though we're in these like telework conditions from time to time, it is paramount and so important that you maintain that emotional intelligence and make sure that you're connecting with your people even when you guys aren't in the work center. It's more than just a task or email and then getting an email back from them, knowing that they're actually working, right? Like Senior Master Sergeant Wade said, she was out there making phone calls to people and just checking in on them. I encourage you guys to please do that, because I have heard some horror stories in the past couple months with the virtual platforms that we've been delivering PD on people just feeling disconnected at that airman tier and NCO tier. And that onus is on us to make sure that we're taking care of those guys, and not just them. We can't forget about each other. It's so important for us as senior NCOs to make sure that we not only use our network to get the mission accomplished, but also use our network to check on our peers. Make sure that we're okay. If we're not okay, then we can't take care of those other folks that are relying on us to make sure that they're taken care of. So if you haven't done so recently, I encourage each and every single one of you guys to reach out to one of your senior NCO counterparts and just check on them and see how they're doing. Right? We're getting close to the holidays. Christmas right around the corner. We know it's a tough time of year, especially with everything that's going on. So please, guys, stay connected and stay safe. With that, if anybody has anything that they'd like to add before we conclude our telePD, I'll open it up to the floor.
Yeah, is there anyone out there that's on the call that wants to say something or ask a question or contribute?
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate all you guys. This is awesome. You guys have done an excellent job this entire year. As you guys get ready to transition to the new team, hopefully they keep this going, because as you said, a lot of lessons learned by all of you this year and all of us. It's been amazing. There are a lot of new capabilities that we'll be able to utilize going forward. Obviously, we all hope to go back and have the social interaction and the big meetings and stuff again too. But this is awesome. You guys have been amazing this year, and please keep it up.
Thanks, Chief. All right. Well, if no one has anything else, then on behalf of the top 3 council for 2020 and the Professional Development Committee, you guys have a happy holidays, a safe new year, and we look forward to getting into 2021 and giving it the business. You guys have a great day. Thanks.